for you guys, if you wanted to come up and start your the way that you guys usually would, uh, I'm open to that. I'll go ahead and light the candles and have the incense ready for you guys. They come from a very Theravada tradition, so even a little bit, maybe a little bit different than I normally would. But fine. Okay, so for those who are just joining us for the first time, both online and in person, the usual order of service, we're going to start off with the very traditional three vows, followed by a little bit of chanting. We'll move into the meditation. If you'd like, we can start off with a kind of a primer on meditation and then move into meditation. Uh, Following meditation, there will be a Dharma reading, where I read from the Dharma, followed by a Dharma talk, where I can talk about what the passages, in this case, two passages mean. And then we'll close it out with a little bit of chanting and a little bit of vows. And that's the normal service. So next week is Lily's birthday, also known as Flower Festival and a couple of other things, depending on what part of Montana we're in. So next week is going to be a very interesting one. We should have a very unique service going, and it'll be kind of fun. Bring some fun. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started, and we're ready. The order of chanting should be on service, the order of service and guide, so you guys know what I'm chanting. Any have a chant from their own tradition that they would like to offer? Tina, move right on. Next up on the order, this will be meditation. You need a primer? And this also goes for those watching home. It never hurts to go back and kind of review what you're doing because it's really easy for this stuff. So every once in a while, just going back to it with fresh eyes is probably a good idea. The basics of meditation, especially in a Buddhist context, is meditation is a focus device. It is a tool that we use to help become more aware of what's going on up here so that we can choose which thoughts we follow and which thoughts we don't. Because most of us, as we're going through our day-to-day lives, we have no idea how many thoughts are just cruising through our brains constantly, nonstop, thought after thought after thought after thought after thought after thought. This allows us to slow that down a little bit and say, okay, which ones are worth following? Thoughts are actually not really useful. Which of them are going to provide some actual benefit, and which of them can I just kind of toss to the side because they're not helping? And so that's really kind of the basis of meditation. In the Buddhist context, we do this as a very spiritual kind of thing. Does it have to be spiritual in nature? Not really. Can this be done in a secular environment? Absolutely. But we do it in a very religious kind of, or spiritual kind of context, where what we're doing is we're deliberately trying to be aware of those thoughts that are going to be helpful in terms of being more compassionate, being more aware of what's going on with those in our lives, with being more aware of the Buddha and his teachings and how he would have taught us to do things, particularly in our day-to-day lives. So being mindful of the Buddhist teachings How we do that is we laid out the basic process. The absolute core fundamentals of meditation in terms of the practice side of the house. Actually, before I get into that, let's go back to the thoughts for just a second, because there's a really good analogy that we like to use, right? And that is, we say that the mind is kind of like a monkey, right? Zoo, right? The monkey in the zoo is doing what? Climbing a tree, right? Going from rock, going from branch to branch to branch, making a lot of noise. Sometimes throwing stuff at you because, why not? That's what we do, right? Your mind will do that same thing, right? Except instead of branches, those are thoughts, right? So your mind will go from thought to thought to thought to thought to thought to thought to thought. Make a lot of noise, so much noise you have to tune most of it out, right? And that's what we're trying to be more aware of, so that we can start to say we're going to follow these compassion thoughts, we're not going to follow these ridiculous thoughts. And monkey will try to distract. Guaranteed. Monkey is going to make a lot of noise. Sometimes monkey will throw stuff at you. Like that time in formation where you were standing there and somebody, maybe you were zoned out and somebody called your name and everybody looked at you like, what's this idiot doing? Right? Whatever the case may be, monkey is going to find those things and monkey is going to throw them at you, because monkey doesn't like it when you meditate. Monkey likes to be in control. Monkey likes to be in charge. Monkey doesn't like it when we do things deliberately. So, monkey will find some way to distract you. When that happens, we practice compassion for others, but we also practice compassion for ourselves. Okay, well, monkey took that one, monkey got me distracted. Fine, that's okay. But no problem with that, it's going to happen. When you find yourself in that spot, simply let it go, acknowledge that it happened, whatever thought was in there, let it go, and move on. Come back to the group, which is exactly what a monkey is getting. So that's why the monkey will be distracted. Because monkey is seeing that we are deliberately, very gently, very slowly, very deeply breathing, and we are focusing on that breathing, which that's something that the body has under control anyway. Right? So when we start to very deliberately breathe, monkey doesn't like that. Right? And so that's when monkey's going to try and distract you. When monkey does distract you, no big deal, right? Let it go, come back to your breathing. No problem, no harm, no. Now, as far as the basics, in terms of the practice, everything is a suggestion at this point. The one rule in terms of self-destruct. You do not judge yourself. It's the one rule. Everything else is suggestion. There are lots of different ways to meditate. There are lots of different postures and lots of different poses. Some are better than others. Some you'll find are better for you than others, and that's okay. Right? Nobody has to position. That's exactly why we do it, because it is so incredibly stable. But if you can't, nobody gave it. Right? The Japanese would say that, kind of doing that I'm doing, that's good. Chinese would say that, you can do half lotus or quarter lotus or any variation thereof. Our Thai and Cambodian and Laotian friends would say, they've got their own different ways of doing it, and various sitting postures. All of those are acceptable based on where you're going to find yourself in that middle zone between not too comfortable and not uncomfortable. You don't want to be in either of those places. You want to be in that middle zone. So, outside of that, just long, deliberate breaths. Eventually, you'll get to the point where you don't have to be long and deliberate with it, because it'll just come naturally, and then you can start to focus on, oh, is this a long breath? It's a long breath. Is this a short breath? It's a short breath. You'll get there. All right? You don't start out there, but with enough practice, you can get there. So, anything you need to know before we move into it? Okay. In which case, I start and end the meditation by ringing the bell one time, and then that's what we got. I'm thinking just 5 or 10 minutes on some of these, 5 10. 10? Okay. And if there's more, Okay, so today, as I mentioned right at the beginning, we're going to be doing two specific passages. Um, Both of these, the basis of this is the Tathagata is a selection of poems, enlightenment poems, written by, or spoken by, I should say, the nuns that the Buddha himself personally talked a little bit about their experiences, their various experiences with motherhood, and how they kind of like it before they ended up becoming nuns. So they are kind of unique, and they are the nuns Sakala and Sona. Now, Sakala, she came from a rich household, and she was there when the Buddha accepted the Jetavana, which is one of the monasteries that the very, very, very rich patrons that the Buddha had back in his day. They said, "Oh, hey, we're going to give you one." And so she was there for that. She was there to watch that happen. And then later on, she heard one of the Buddha's monks teaching, and said, "Okay, this is where I need to be." She had that kind of like flash uh, of insight that said, "This is home. This is." So I kind of identify with her a little bit. Um, and then Sona, she was also from a rather wealthy family. Her husband eventually decided he was going to ordain and left her with 11 kids, 10 sons and one daughter, which is obviously not the greatest of ideas, but that's what went down. So she raised them, she finished raising them, and as they came of age, she gave them all their inheritance, which was part of the land that he had kind of like set aside that he had renounced when he was ordained. Now, her kids decided that it was a really great idea to just kind of like throw a mom a gut punch and say, how about you just get off our land? And, like, we don't care about you, which was a really kind of a terrible way to thank mom for life, I guess. So she was pretty distraught, and she went and talked to one of the nuns and was like, "Okay, well, what's going on?" And the nun was like, "Okay, well, this is what's going on." And she ordained, and eventually, old as she was, she eventually went through and achieved enlightenment. And so we have Sakala's verse and we have Sana's verse. And let's hear what these venerals have to say about their experience both with life and with enlightenment. 5 verses in the original. So I guess they kind of equal up, yeah, in the translation. So Venerable Sakala says, her verse says, "I was living at home when I heard the Buddha's teaching from a monk, and I saw the Dharma perfectly, knew freedom, the eternal state. Who I was then left behind son and daughter, wealth and grain. After cutting off my hair, I went forth to homelessness," which is essentially that's what we do when we become a monk or a nun. "I trained myself, developed a straight path. I gave up anger together with all that fouls the heart. I ordained as a nun, former lives. The eye that sees the invisible was clear, spotless, developed. I saw my experiences as if they were not my own, born from a cause destined to disappear. I got rid of all that fouls the heart. I am cool, free." And Venerable Sana, her verse says, "It was after I gave birth to 10 sons with this body, when I was weak and old, that I approached a nun. She taught me the Dharma, about what makes a person, the senses and their objects, about the basic elements that make up everything. When I heard what she taught, I cut off my hair and went forth. By training under her, my eye that sees the invisible became clear. I knew my previous lives, where I had lived before. I cultivated a state of mind that depends on nothing else and cannot be measured. I became focused, collected. I am free, and I will always be completely free. I know the 5 impersonal things that make up a person. They may still stand, but their roots are cut. The calamity now is for miserable old age itself. I will not be born again." tough stuff. But these nuns are not messing around. So again, the reason why I chose this is they kind of highlight these two venerables' experiences with life and what caused them to kind of go follow the Buddhist path and to follow the Buddha and his teachings and say, okay, this is something that I can do. And as I kind of mentioned in kind of giving a little backstories, yeah, they came from these two came from some pretty high level places. So it's not like they didn't have options. Like they could have lived their lives not becoming nuns, and it would have been totally okay, with no problem, right? They have all kinds of money. Sakura talks about giving up wealth and which back then would have been wealth. And so she and her family had everything that she needed to kind of go about it and say, look, we can totally live our normal lives, and that's cool. That wasn't her way though. That wasn't she had that kind of sense that said, I got something else that I gotta do. And so she went and she in her experiences, she talked to she saw the Jedi Alvana, and she knew that she had that solid kind of determination that we love to talk about so much. And as she found that determination, she decided that that's where she is. That's where, and she decided to. It's not mentioned so much here in this verse, but we know in some of the commentaries the Buddha had kind of labeled her as the nun with the foremost capacity to see the invisible, to see beyond just just this physical reality, to see reality itself, right? To see the truth beyond the kind of like surface level stuff. So she got some pretty good praise from coming from the Buddha. When she trained, she knew what she was doing, and she was doing a good job. Could she have done that as a civilian? Could she have done that as just like a normal householder wife? Maybe. Probably not though. All right, and so as she goes about it, right, she decided that she was going to become a nun, which she did, cut off her hair, went into homelessness, and as she says, she trained herself, right, which is exactly what we're supposed to do with the path, right? The whole point of Buddhism as a kind of like faith, is we are a religion of practice. We're not a religion necessarily of text. We're a religion of doing stuff, right? We do meditation. We train ourselves. We go about and we do all of these things to make sure that we know what we're doing. And the whole point of that is action matters. She's training herself. She's putting in the effort. Her actions are mattering, and they're producing results. The same effort, I guess we get what we get, right? Based on how much we do, right? That's the key. Is that this whole thing is all about what we do. She saw that the path of being a nun was the thing that she needed to do. She went and she trained herself. She did a lot of meditation. She, in the course of that meditation, she was able to develop these qualities, develop these skills. And that's super impressive, yes. But it's not something that we as individuals can't do. If we put in the effort, we can get it. And that's the whole point of this, right? It's not just that the Buddha is enlightened, right? And he's a great dude. Cool. The point of this is, yes, he was enlightened and he taught us how to get there too. Beautiful, because that says she can do it, so can we. 600 years ago, so can we. That's important, because if it were just, oh, hey, this was great people doing stuff a long time ago, and now, hey, we just have this great stuff that we can look back on and say, look at all this great stuff that happened. That's cool, but that's not what we're here for. We're here to practice. We're here to do stuff. We're here to develop these skills and capabilities and these qualities, this mindfulness within ourselves as well. All right, so that's what we see with her. Venerable Sona. I'm going to move on to her stuff. Again, action matters, but we're going to get into that. Her story is again a little bit less pleasant. Because nobody wants to, in their old age, wants to be like, oh, hey, well, I took care of you and I made sure you had everything you needed as a kid. And then their kids just sort of like, yeah, for you. Nobody, that's not the right way of doing things, right? So yeah, you should go ask these nuns, what I can do with it. Uh, and so she did, and she approached the nun, which, if I'm not mistaken, I could be mistaken on this one, but if I'm not mistaken, you hear her story, it's like, oh, yeah, we had some interesting times there, didn't we? But Sona learned from her, and then she learned, the things that make up a person, the senses in their objects. These are things that, these are basic parts of Buddhist teaching. The elements that make up everything. She cultivated a state of mind by training, right? By training under Patacha, by training under this nun. She learned how to develop that kind of mind that depends on nothing and cannot be measured. This is an incredibly important piece, because what this says is she's kind of describing the enlightenment, what enlightenment actually means in the Buddhist context, which is we don't see it necessarily as just like some kind of philosophical construct, which is awesome, right? Don't get me wrong, philosophical constructs are nice and well. This goes well beyond that. It transcends the capacity to be measured, the capacity for thought, the capacity. It goes beyond all of that by being good at all. Is really what it goes into. She became focused and collected. And this is one thing we see this a lot with the monks and the nuns, is when they've gone through and had their experience, when they've gone through and practiced and developed, they get incredibly good capacity to focus, and they are very, very collected. It's very hard. Like even some of the nuns that I had as classmates, really hard to get them off their game, right? So they're incredibly collected, and you will almost never find a time when they're not kind of absolutely in charge of their experience. Especially those who've been practicing for a little bit longer, right? I'm thinking particularly of one of the Korean nuns who was one of my classmates, and the only time I ever saw her get flustered, it didn't look like she was flustered. She had this kind of like cat-like. There was some kind of weird situation going on where somebody was suffering in a very particular way, to what. But when she was told about this, when she experienced that, it looked like a cat had just sat up and was like, oh, this is a thing. We're going to deal with this. And that's the only time that I ever saw her at all flustered. If you can call that to be flustered. Right? So this is not a thing this is a thing that the nuns developed, right? And particularly Sona, right? This is something that we see out in our day-to-day lives, right? I saw this with that particular Korean nun, and I've seen it in other places as well, where that's really kind of I don't want to say necessarily kind of like the default, but that's kind of the default. That's really where this goes, and it's a beautiful place to be in that focused, collected, if that makes but that's a beautiful spot to be, and we can get there too if we put in the effort. If we make that effort, if we put in the time to practice, to train, right, to do the meditation, to read through the Buddhist teachings, and to figure out how they apply to our lives. If we're doing that, we can be here too. We can be in this calm, collected state. And these nuns are showing us how it's done by saying, oh, this is what I went through. This is what I did. This is what I'm about to do. We can do that too. And that's the beautiful part of it. You don't have to sit there and say, well, somebody else is going to do it for me. We can sit there and say, I'm on this. I'm on it. I'm going to do it. I have the determination personally and individually to say, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And so we have that capacity. let's make use of it. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and close it out there. Around a little bit, especially when I'm talking about things that I particularly enjoy. So, if there are questions, we can definitely open those up. But we're gonna go ahead and close it out with the chanting and then the vows. Exactly. Thank you for attending. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the live feed right now, so if you want to sit around and ask questions, it's great. We will still be here, but I am going to go ahead and turn off the live now, so we can make the video as short as possible. And our roads at home, thanks for watching. We will see you guys next time.